I'm BuilderOwl and welcome to the third video in this series, and it will be the last video that'll be sort of long. So here we're going to install this plugin, Building by F3X. So we'll go to Toolbox and we'll go to Plugins, and it will somewhat be up here, but if you can't find it, we can type F3X, and here it is. And if we click it, you'll see Building Tools by F3X. Really quickly, I'm going to uninstall this plugin. And if you want to uninstall a plugin, you click Plugins, go to Manage Plugins, and it'll open up Plugin Management. And here you can scroll down until you find the plugin you either want to disable or remove. And now it's removed. We can X out of that. We can go back to Toolbox and really quickly re-click it. And we can click Install. And now it's been installed, so we can close this. So we're going to close this real quick just because of how it opens. And it'll be found somewhere along here, and it'll open up like this, and you'll have these different options. Now first I'm going to go over the plugin I use, and then I'm going to go over how this plugin works. So I'm going to go ahead and close this by clicking on it. Then I'm going to go to I'm not going to try to say what it is, but it's basically this plugin, and I'll link both down below. And this is basically how it looks. It's very simple. Very, very simple. So I'll just change a lot of these values. And there we go. Now on this plugin, there are two tabs that we are not going to use at all, because generally I find them useless. And that would be the purple tab and the white tab. We don't need those. The rest of this, however, we do need. So I'm going to get rid of all of this, and I'm going to open up View, Properties, and Explorer, and I'm going to right-click to insert a part. And this will be the part we will demonstrate with. Here on Move Axes, you'll see that it will move by the global axes. If we rotate by pivot, and we move by first, it will now move in the direction we tell it to move in. If we hit Control D to duplicate this part, and let's say we rotate it a full 180 degrees, which you can see how much you've moved and rotated a part up here. Now we can click these two, and here we see we could move by first, but if we want to move these two, say facing each other, we will click Move Object, and there we go. Now back to Rotate Pivot. The first part you select will be your pivot, so we can rotate this outer part, and this will be our center part. And there you go. Now, if we want to rotate both these parts, and this will be our center, we can rotate by group, as you can see here. If we want to rotate both of these parts, we can do something like this. And if we want to move object, we can do something like this. And that's just a few things you can do with that. So we'll insert another part and we'll move it back up. And if we have two parts, let's say like this, you can also resize them as well. You can also resize from center, and this is easier explained down here. So we'll just do this. And if we resize from center, it says one stud here, but in reality it resizes by half a stud. So you want to do this twice, or if you don't want to do that, you can hit this, number 2, and it will now resize by a full stud on both ends. And we'll just change that back to 1. So of course, with something like this, you can do something like this. And so on and so forth. And you can experiment with this. And I'll just delete those. Now, here you can convert parts to a wedge part. And this is extremely useful while you're building something. Say you don't want to insert another part. So say you're building something and you have something like this. And you want to put a wedge part here. You would simply do this. Place it there. Wedge part. You can also do corner wedge part as well. And click convert. And there you go. That's very useful as well. So here we have select edge. This is very, very useful. So let's say we have this part, and some people will try to make arches by rotating this, trying to move this, and it'll generally come out looking kind of bad. So what we can do is we can do something like this and select edge, and you hold down Alt and click, and now you can rotate on the edge, and it's very useful. Very useful. Another thing that is also useful about select edge is that if you want to, of course, rotate like this, you can also rotate like that. Say you're making an arena, this is very useful. And there you go. Now, another useful thing about this plugin is that I often see a lot of times that people will have, say, a building in a crowded city area, and they'll make this building, but then when they complete it, they'll go to select it, and they'll try to select it like this, and they might select other buildings in the area, or the sidewalk, or the road, and then they have to go and deselect all those parts. Well, instead, what you can do with this plugin is you can insert a part, let's say, and we can select both of these parts, go up here, remember to anchor them, by the way, click group, and we can double or triple click really fast, and now we'll be able to select these parts in their model. And while this is also cool, is that say this part is unlocked out here, let's click out of that, and we can select this. If we double click into that, you will not be able to select anything out of the model, which is extremely nice if you're building something that you just want to hold down control and click like this and select multiple parts, and that way you won't select the part outside of the model, which is very useful. Just one thing to note is that if you decide that you're unhappy with the model and you decide to delete it before selecting out of the model, you will not be able to select anything. You'll either have to restart Studio or undo until you have that model in there, and then you'll be able to click out of it and then delete it, and now you can select everything like normal. And that's basically it for this plugin. It's just these two UIs, that's it. So remember, the first object you select with rotate pivot will be your pivot point. Really quickly, I'll demonstrate that by inserting another part. And we'll do the thing that we did with the select edge, but instead we'll do it another method like so. Actually, well, technically this is still our center point. This is our pivot. If we select this part, then that part will be rotated by this pivot. But if we select this part and select that, we can rotate this by using that center piece. Now we're going to go ahead and lock this here, and we'll go into insert part, and we'll go ahead and anchor it, and we'll close this, and we'll open up F3X. And this is so you can follow along with both plugins. With this plugin, if you decide to use this one, you can follow along with me. So here we have global, local, and last. And all of these pretty much do the same thing. So you don't have to worry too much. Like I said, this is global. If we decide to rotate this, again, global, it'll move by global. If we decide to go local, then you can move it by local. Now, this is a bit weird with this plugin, because instead of having it to where the first part you select is your pivot, it is actually the last part. So I'll demonstrate that by clicking these two parts. If we click last, it will be the last part we select. Like so. Actually, and if we want to rotate by local, then it will be the last part you select as well. And that's basically that, really. That's the only thing. Now, the difference with this plugin, thankfully, is that you don't need to worry about setting this to 2 when you resize by both directions, because it already corrects it. So you don't need to worry about that too much. That's fine. Now, to do what we did earlier where we rotated on that edge, it's a little hidden in here. Unless you read these tips, but it's pretty hidden if you're just clicking these and you're not really paying attention to all of this. If you click this and you hit R, or I think even T, yeah, if you hit T or R, you can, and you see this little X, then you'll rotate by that pivot. And here you go, you can now rotate on that pivot point. So now you know how to follow along with that. And that's basically it. The rest of this little sidebar is pretty much just this extra features, like how to recolor, surface tools, material tools, that sort of thing. And that's basically it. So I'm BuilderOwl, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Thank you.